What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the New York Knicks and the immaculate transition that they have made this season. All that and much more coming your way right now! Hey, Trash Talkers, it's Mike here. Over 93% of you who view our show each and every day are not subscribed to the channel. If you could hit that red subscribe button, it would help us out tremendously, and it is completely free for you guys. If you want to stay up to date with our daily content, then click that bell icon and you will be notified every time we go live. Nick and I both really appreciate you subscribing to the channel, and we can't wait to keep making more daily content for you. All right, Nick. Well, as we've seen, as we come closer to the end of the NBA season, the New York Knicks are actually the biggest surprise. And I don't think it's really debatable at this point. So I want to take a look at the New York Knicks. I want to take a deep dive really quick and figure out what is the biggest reason for their turnaround. Because when you go from a team that looked like it was just a bunch of pieces put together to throw out on a court and call it a day to now being the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference of the NBA, I think that you kind of did something right in the offseason, and it's time to take a look at what that might have been.
Yeah, I think we got to start with the head coach, Tom Thibodeau, the newest acquisition at their head coach position, which was absolutely massive for this team. Tom Thibodeau in the past had massive success. You saw him in Chicago, what he did with Derrick Rose. That team absolutely flourished with him as their head coach. And now in his first year, he takes this roster and absolutely turns it around. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Derrick Rose, these guys absolutely are flourishing. Derrick Rose back in the system. It's like he didn't miss a beat. He really is thriving back under Tom Thibodeau, and he looks like he's the Derrick Rose of old. This team has really turned itself around in 1 year and really turned itself into a competitor in the East. So, Tom Thibodeau is the real reason why the Knicks have had such success this year. But then you got to turn your head to Julius Randle, one of the biggest surprises in the NBA this season. He is one of the best 4s, 5s you can ask for in the league right now. He's leading the Knicks in points and rebounds. He's really taking command of this team with such young talent around him being young himself, but he's really become a captain, a leader for this team, and really helped the young guys find their groove in the system. They're all working extremely well together. I think Tom Thibodeau and Julius Randle are the two biggest reasons why the Knicks are having such great success this season.
Uh, I'll take Tom Thibodeau. I'll take Julius Randle. I also want to give credit to Leon Rose and Scott Perry. Leon Rose is the president of the New York Knicks, and Scott Perry is the general manager. They were in charge of hiring a new head coach. This was basically the last straw that you know James Dolan was willing to give them. And at this point, it worked out really well because Tom Thibodeau, he is a hard-nosed grindstone type of coach. I loved him with the Boston Celtics. When he went to Chicago, it pained me a lot. Then he had some turbulence in Minnesota with the players not really liking the way he coached. And now in New York, I think he's kind of found a sweet spot. He's found a lot of players that are willing to work hard, play a lot of defense, and play within the system that he has developed. I think this is exactly what the New York Knicks needed. And at this point, they are becoming more and more of a free agent destination where the Brooklyn Nets were once considered the superior team in New York. Now the New York Knicks are starting to take over and say, listen, they have Kyrie, they have KD, they have Blake Griffin, they have all these stars. The New York Knicks, we play at MSG. Like that's got to be a huge draw for some of these players. So I think that there's a lot to be said about Leon Rose and Scott Perry bringing in the players that they have and building this roster up to be a free agency destination. But I also want to give credit to somebody I never thought I'd give credit to in the history of ever, and that would be owner James Dolan. I believe James Dolan has actually done a good job by not doing a goddamn thing. He has stayed out of the way. He has not interfered with the basketball operations. And guess what? He let his people work for him, and it has worked out in his favor. The New York Knicks are back in the playoff race. They are the number 4 seed. They'll be hosting a playoff series at minimum. And we're talking about the New York Knicks as a free agency destination, all without him interfering because he put the right people in place and he trusts them. I have to give James Dolan credit because I never thought I'd see the day where he was finally hands off of this franchise. Outside of that, I think he's a terrible owner. I think he's terrible for the sport of basketball, but he's done a good job so far of not interfering with the New York Knicks and where they've come. So I wanted to give them all credit. I take a look at some of the players that are on this roster. You have Derrick Rose coming back from his multiple injuries. He came off the bench for most of the year. Now he's starting to get into the starting rotation. Emmanuel Quickley has worked out really well for them. Obi Toppin has gotten off to a slow start in his NBA career, but he's shown just how versatile he can be and what he can do in the NBA. I think the ceiling is really high for him, and I like what the Knicks have in him. They have some young guys that still need some poking and prodding. I take a look at Kevin Knox. I take a look at Frank Ntilikina, and some of these guys were definitely overshoots in the draft and probably shouldn't have been selected when they were. But either way, they still have RJ Barrett, who's an absolute stud. And I like the way this roster is being constructed. I made fun of it early in the season because I was like, wow, this roster really is made up of all power forwards and like 1 or 2 point guards, and that's pretty much it. But it seems to be working out for them. And who knew that Julius Randle would come out and be, in my opinion, the clear cut most improved player in the NBA.
Without a doubt. And, for Knicks fans, they're just lucky that James Dolan also owns the Rangers and he decided to mess them up this season instead of the Knicks, because if he only owned the Knicks, we all know that James Dolan would have messed that up somehow. But you know what? The Knicks have really turned themselves around. They are a real contender from now on forth, and teams are going to have to start taking them seriously. They are not a team you can really sleep on, not a team that you can really take a game off of when you play them. And you've got to really start targeting these young guys. Emmanuel Quickley is one of the best point guard rookies that we've seen this season. And then you have RJ Barrett, who showed that he's actually not a bust. He's going to thrive as the number 2 there in New York, and he's really going to offer them something alongside Julius Randle, who is a guy they've got to keep there long term, a guy that really has shed that injury bug, guy who's really come to form in his own and really is going to help this franchise come a long way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I wanted to pull up this list really quick and talk about some of the players that are going to be available in 2021 when free agency hits. You're talking about Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Mike Conley, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Victor Oladipo, Tim Hardaway Jr., who has some experience with the New York Knicks, Dennis Schroeder, Evan Fournier. The list keeps going on and on and on. And I'm taking a look, and I'm going to say some of these guys might take a look at the New York Knicks and where they've gone and say, MSG is a really fun place to play. There's a lot of rich history there. And as long as James Dolan stays out of the way and just signs my paycheck, I'm in. So at this point, I think that the New York Knicks have a very bright future. I'm excited to see where they go. And at this point, I don't know if I want the Celtics to actually play them in the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. But nonetheless, that'll be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.